Well, it has become one of the most perplexing issues and gravest concerns in hockey, in all of sport. Brain trauma, concussions have ended the careers and altered the lives of far too many athletes. But now some have agreed to help in a very unique way by agreeing to donate their brains to medical research.
Watch him hit his head on the ice and watch it bounce.
I would be more than happy to donate my brain.
I would absolutely be interested in donating my brain to science.
There's Bob Booker laying out Keith Primo at center.
It is a fraternity no one wants to join, a brotherhood of pain and confusion, of darkness and despair.
Some long, dark days, scary. And the scariest thing was that you're not processing things, your nervous system's out of whack, and you're wondering if this is ever gonna end.
Multiple concussions can take our most gifted athletes and debilitate them unimaginably. Not just unable to play, but unable to do the simplest of tasks.
Having a string of 7 days, never leaving your place. I had to hire an assistant just to bring me food. To be there if something that needed to be delivered, I wouldn't leave my room.
I couldn't get out of bed, I didn't have any desire to shower.
And as soon as I'd elevate my heart rate, I had this spinning sensation, and I could not get rid of it.
Unless you've been there, they say, you'll never understand. Well, Chris Nowinski has been there, and trying to understand concussions is now his life's mission. Nowinski, a Harvard grad, was a pro wrestler in the WWE until concussions forced him from the ring.
I wrestled for 5 straight weeks and worked out every single day as hard as I could and made what would have been a temporary injury much, much worse. It was all kind of downhill after that because I had daily symptoms, headaches and memory problems and all that stuff, but I didn't know any better.
He founded the Sports Legacy Institute, a nonprofit organization aimed at unraveling the mystery of what concussions do to the human brain.
I got involved in looking into the deaths, early deaths of a number of prominent pro athletes. Started with Andre Waters. Andre Waters was a former NFL player. He was safety, shot himself in the head at the age of 44. Seemingly out of the blue, he was employed. There had been no real reports of problems, but he had a massive concussion history. And they found he was suffering from a disease called chronic traumatic encephalopathy. A lot of people know it as punch drunk. He actually had physical damage to his brain, and that would cause the symptoms that would lead to suicide. The next brain we tried to find, we realized this was very important work. Justin Strzelczyk, 36, played for the Steelers. A couple of years prior had seemingly gone crazy and led the police on a 40-mile chase until he ran into a tanker truck and died.
Nowinski has partnered with Boston University, which has an invaluable resource, a brain bank, where Dr. McKee has studied the physical effects of concussions.
I think we have to take concussion very, very seriously, and I think return to play guidelines have to be really seriously reconsidered. And it's at least a month before a person can return to play.
At the line was Korea. He is hurt.
We'll go back in. That's our natural instinct, just to go back in. But you need somebody who knows better, knows this stuff, to hold you back, because we're wired to just do that and without regard to your health.
And if a person has a second injury, a second concussion during this long period of recovery, there can be catastrophic consequences.
And this is where the athletes come in. Nowinski is trying to get as many as possible to give after they're gone.
It's one of the strangest positions I've ever found myself in, to ask adults for their brains when they pass away.
Florida Panther defenseman Noah Welsh, another Harvard grad, was the first hockey player and is the only active athlete to agree to donate his brain.
I've actually seen pictures of former athletes that have suffered a lot of head trauma and pictures of their brains, and literally half their brain is just black, it's just dead.
3-time Super Bowl champion Ted Johnson says he suffered close to 100 concussions during his career. Johnson retired in 2005. Over the next 2 years, his marriage fell apart and his health deteriorated. When asked for his brain, he didn't hesitate.
I just want to do my part. When I went public with my story, it was right after I read a New York Times article on Andre Waters, who took a gun and shot his brains out. Enough's enough. I gotta help the guys that were like me, at home alone and scared and didn't know what it was that was making them feel that way.
Keith Primo and Pat LaFontaine are hopeful the brain research will lead to answers so that others won't have to go through what they have. Pain and depression that at times became unbearable.
There was a couple scary points just prior to me retiring that I broke down, and I didn't feel as though I was ever going to get better. If it wasn't for the support and strength of my family, I may have succumbed, but I knew I had to fight through it.
The doctor told me, he said, don't worry, does it feel like somebody just put their hand inside you and ripped out all your enthusiasm, your spark for life? And I remember getting a tear, and I said, yes.
Andre Waters' family donated his brain. So did the family of Canadian wrestler Chris Benoit, who murdered his wife and son before killing himself in June of 2007. At the time, many wondered the role steroids may have played in Benoit's horrific act. But Nowinski, his former colleague in the ring, wonders instead if concussions were a factor.
What we do know is that steroids could never cause the trauma, the damage from trauma we saw in his brain. That abnormal protein that we find in their brain would never be steroid related.
Science has yet to fully unravel the mystery of concussions and what they can do to a person over their lifetime. And that unknown is frightening to those who still suffer the effects.
There's some angst, and because going into this, I was like, I don't know what to expect 10, 15, 20, 25 years down the road from now. I definitely know that I've damaged my brain. I just feel it. I know it emotionally, physically, every day of my life.
It makes you pause, but I've filled my quota for a lifetime of having bad days. Basically, if you learn how to die, you learn how to live. I've kind of made peace with what might happen so I can enjoy what's in front of me right now.
That piece put together by producer Jeremy McElhaney. One of the things both Pat LaFontaine and Nowinski are pushing hard for, in the National Hockey League anyway, is a mandatory penalty for headshots.